Right, so I have a beacon here running as bfarmer on workstation 1. To find services that have unquoted service paths, let's do run wimic get service. It's actually run wimic service get. And we only want to return the name and the path name. So this is a list of all the services on the system. And you can see that some of them have these double quotes. Some of them have these parameters, and some of them have no quotes and are just a single path. Now what we're looking for are instances where the path has a space in it, like this here, but it doesn't have quotes. And you can, export this list and go through it by whatever means is good for you. What I'm looking for here are the vulnerable services, very creatively named so they're easy for you to find. So vuln service 1, we can see it does have spaces in the path, several spaces, and it's not wrapped by double quotes. So the issue with this here is that when the service starts, Windows will read this path, and what it will do is on a space it will interpret the preceding word as like the complete path. So first it will have a look to see if cprogram.exe exists, and if it does, it will actually execute cprogram.exe first. If that doesn't exist, it will go up to vuln here, so it will look to see if program files /vuln.exe exists, and so on and so forth. If that doesn't exist, it will go up to the next space, and it will say, does program file vuln services service.exe exists? So this in itself doesn't mean that the service is actually vulnerable, because we need to make sure that we actually have right permissions in any of these locations to drop a malicious binary. Now by default you can't write files into C, you can only create folders, so probably we can't do cprogram.exe, but it's always worth checking. Likewise, it's probably unlikely that we're going to be able to write into the program files folder, because you have to be a local admin to do that. And I would also say it's quite unlikely that we'll be able to write into the vuln services directory. And the reason I say that is because if you create a directory, by default it will actually inherit the permissions from its parent. So by default, if you create vuln services, that folder will have the same permissions as program files, and therefore if you can't write into program files, you can't write into vuln services. However, if you are installing software that comes with its own installer, the installer could conceivably explicitly change the permissions of the folder that it created, or maybe an admin has gone in and done that for whatever reason. You see all sorts of stuff. And we can check each of these paths using PowerShell as an example. So we can do PowerShell get ACL, and get ACL is a native commandlet, so you don't have to import anything. And let's just say C first. I should have actually formatted that as a list, I think. Yeah, so let's pipe that to format list. So it can expand everything out. So it's no surprise that system has full control and administrators have full control. And what we're looking for are these principles that we're a part of. So we can create files, which is interesting, I guess. So maybe we could try that. So let's generate a payload. For privilege escalation, I always tend to use TCP payloads that are bound to the local host. And the reason for that is that because it's a privilege escalation, you've already got a beacon running on this system. You don't need to connect to it from another host. So keeping it local is just nice. And we have to make sure, because this is a service abuse, we have to choose a service executable. But let's just keep it named as like TCP service. And let's cd into C. And let's see if we can upload C payloads. So we actually can't write files there, so 5 is access denied. A little trick is to do net help message and then the error number. And so 5 will tell you it's access denied. So let's check the vuln services folder. We'll skip over program files. Program files. Vuln services. Oh, I forgot FL again. And here you can see that built-in users has write access. So this is an example of where like these descriptive names for the permissions may not always be apparent. I mean, I would look at that and say, well, allow create files is fairly self-explanatory, but it's obviously not. So let's cd into program files vuln services and make sure that we're in the right place. Yep, and if we ls, these are the 3 service binaries. So let's upload the payload here. Okay, this time we don't get access denied. And the payload is here. And we have to rename it, which we can just do with the move command. So let's move oops a daisy. I just move that to the bottom. Move to service.exe, that's what it has to be. Okay, there we go. Now to trigger the actual execution of this, the service has to be started. So if it's started, if it's already running, we either have to stop it and then start it. If we don't have permission to do that as a standard user, which is actually quite unlikely, then we have to wait for the machine to reboot. Let's do run qc vuln service 1. Run scqc, I beg your pardon. And the start type for this is auto start. So that means it will start on boot. If we do run sc query vuln service 1, we can see it's actually in a stopped state, and that's probably because I've been messing around with it previous to the video. But if you see that it's in a running state or a started state, you can do run sc stop vuln service 1, and since it's already stopped, I'm just going to go ahead and start it again. Okay, you'll see that the state comes back as start pending. And then if we run netstat, we can see that 1337 is now listening on the localhost. So we just have to connect to it. Connect localhost 1337. And here we have a beacon running a system.